As I said, I'm from Tasmania, and Miles so kindly highlighted some of the things about the statistics to do with adult literacy in Tasmania. And I suppose what I want to talk to you about today is that it's not as simple as it sounds. It sounds bad, but we've spent some time since we launched this strategy thinking about how to nuance that figure. 2610, if it's not self-evident, we've wasted a lot of money. It stands for the 26 letters and the 10 numbers that are the tools for life. These are the things that we think if you haven't got a reasonable command of, then it's going to limit your life choices. And it's about individuals being able to make the choices they want. 2610 is the public face of the Tasmanian Adult Literacy Action Plan. We used to have a Labor government, and the Premier in 2008 recognised that we had a significant problem. More than an issue, it's a problem. And the government committed long-term funding in terms of capital, but also in terms of staffing to help address adult literacy needs in Tasmania. We worked away at helping raise literacy levels, but we realised that we needed an awareness raising campaign, and that's what 2610 is. It's a marketing campaign, and we'll see how we've gone with it. It's important because, as Miles so kindly pointed out, 1 in 2 adult Tasmanians have a literacy level below level 3. Now, when I say level 3, I mean on the Australian Core Skills Framework, and some of you may know it intimately. And it's an interesting tool, but it's used across the country to measure literacy levels. There have been 3 measures of our literacy since the 1990s. The PAC data is the most recent, and we've talked about that earlier today. It roughly equates, and we need to be careful about that, but it roughly equates to level 3 on PAC is about level 3 on ALS, which is about level 3 on the ACSF. Did you like the way I used 3 acronyms or initialisms in one sentence? What it really means is that 1 in 2 adult Tasmanians has trouble with some form of literacy. Now, this is a complicated thing to explain, but in terms of marketing, it's easy. My job is to horrify and shock the 52% of adult Tasmanians who do have a reasonable level of literacy and say, what are you going to do? If we talk about PAC, one of the things we've discovered is that there are 178,000 adult Tasmanians who are below level 3. It means that 55,000 adult Tasmanians are below 1 and 123,000 are below level 2. So that has some huge ramifications for what we've discovered since we launched the action plan. And I might just put it into context and why this has some implications for libraries. In Tasmania, we have a thing called LINC, because as you know, we all like to change the name of what we do. So LINCs are libraries, plus a lot more. LINC Tasmania means Learning and Information Network Centres. So to all of you who are familiar with libraries, you walk into a LINC and it feels like a library. It has books in it, but it also has training rooms. It might have a Service Tasmania with it now, which is the state government's way of paying your bills and getting your driver's licence, registering your car. It might also now have a child and family centre with it, and that's a national initiative, and some of you would know about that. The government decided that they would put adult literacy coordinators in LINCs. There are 23 of them around the state. They're not teachers, but they have a huge variety of skills, and they work with a volunteer workforce. We now have over 650 volunteer adult tutors who are trained and they've done units of a Certificate 3 in Community Services to be able to help people one-on-one. So that's how libraries fit with adult literacy, and I'll talk about what that's meant for us. As you came in, you would have seen some Tasmanians talking about their stories, and wanted to share two with you, which highlight some things that you've been thinking about in terms of family literacy, but also some things about the data. So the first is a story from the southernmost primary school in Australia. It's at Dover. There's a little boy in grade 1, and I should say that in Tasmania you are entitled to education from the age of 4. We provide kindergarten if you'd like to come, but you must come from the age of 5. So he's in grade 1. He's already had kinder prep and he's in his 3rd year of school. He's doing fantastically. He's a delight in his class. The teachers love him, the other kids think he's wonderful. His reading is amazing. He has progressed, he's outstripped everyone else. Halfway through grade 1, his reading slows and stagnates. It takes his classroom teacher and the social worker 6 months to discover why. Anyone got an idea? He'd reached the reading age of his father. So Dad was reading to him, doing a really good job, but Dad couldn't read the things that were starting to come home. So this is about intergenerational literacy. It's also about disadvantage, poverty. If you've been to Dover, anyone been to Dover in the south of Tasmania? It's a long way south. The other story is the story of a mother of 7 children. She lives in Bridgewater, which is one of the lowest socioeconomic areas in the state. She was 50 last year. Her children range in age, I think the eldest is 30 and the youngest turned 8. 8 is very significant now in Australia because it means you can no longer be on supporting parent benefit, you have to go on to New Start. So all of a sudden she loses quite a substantial amount of the money that the government gives her, and she has to find a job. Her Job Service Australia agency discovered that she has a very low level of literacy. So she's matched with a LINC literacy tutor, a volunteer tutor, who helps her, and her level is low. It's below level 1. She can read a few words. Over 18 months she progresses to this point where she can enrol in a Certificate 2 in kitchen operations with TASTAFE. And she does a really good job. She manages to get 3 complete units and a statement of attainment. And then the Job Service Agency says you have to go and get a job now, and she has to look for work. And she has to comply and get 6 tick-offs to say that she's been looking for work. She has no idea what looking for work means. What's a resume? What's a covering letter? What does an interview feel like? What does getting up and going to work every day feel like? Because she's never had a job, never had a paid job. So she becomes clinically depressed. She goes on a mental health plan. She disengages from her LINC literacy tutor. She becomes almost agoraphobic. And that's where she is right now. But her 23-year-old daughter has just come to LINC Tasmania and said, I need help with my literacy too, and Mum said that you can help me. 2 real stories. So, we're helping. These are the sorts of things we're doing. We're connecting people with help. We provide lots of different programs and services. We've got 600 volunteers, 23 literacy coordinators, and they're all around the state. We place them according to need. We look very carefully at where are the worst levels of literacy in the state, and we put coordinators there. We have people called ALSOs, Adult Literacy Support Officers, who work in workplaces. And we also have over 100 specialist teachers in LLN, Literacy and Numeracy, across the state. Sounds good, doesn't it? We've asked people to do things. The first thing we want is people to talk about this. We encourage people to seek help to improve their skills. We promote the use of plain English, and I'll talk about that later. We train our staff to help with literacy needs. We tell people to read to their kids. We also have a network of members, and these are organisations who are committed to making a difference to adult literacy in their workplace, in their sporting club, etc. And we've got more volunteers than we know what to do with. We ask businesses, clubs, organisations to help because the problem's so bad, government alone, through the action plan, can't make a difference. So we ask individual organisations to have their own action plan to make a change. And it could be something as simple as, I will raise awareness in my workforce. I will try and make sure every sign is in plain English. Quite simple things that you can do. 2610, and I should probably say, LINC Tasmania, the state library, is part of the Department of Education in Tasmania. The Tasmanian Adult Literacy Action Plan is owned by the Department of Education, and it's enabled through LINC and Skills Tasmania. Skills Tasmania are the funding body. They fund through federal funding hours for RTOs, but they also fund grants through 2610. So you might be a community that wants to do something in terms of adult literacy. So you might be a community house, you'll get a grant to do that. You might be an employer, so you'll get a grant to have an also come and work and discover what the literacy levels in your workplace are like. 2610 also has some really public-facing things. A website, that's great if you've got some digital literacy skills. We have a 1300 number. So if you want some help, you can ring up and we will match you with someone in the state. We run plain English and literacy awareness workshops and a grants program. We try and work together with people. Our three main messages are, if everybody knows about adult literacy and how bad it is, that's good. If everyone is supported, if they want to improve their skills, that's great. And if everyone communicates clearly in plain English, both in writing and in the way they speak, then we're almost there. We have some big workplaces that are part of what we do, and that's great. But we've learnt some things. In the couple of years since we've launched, there are some tensions in what we're doing that some other people might be able to learn from. Really hard stuff to measure. This is long-term intergenerational change. We didn't get there overnight. We're not going to change it overnight. And you would all know, as working in libraries, we're really good at doing busy work, but we can measure activity, but we're not so good at measuring outcomes. But governments, particularly Liberal governments, want us to measure outcomes. It's hard, long and slow, and we've discovered that nearly 80% of the clients presenting for help are below level 1. They take longer to get anywhere. It can take 12 months for someone to be confident enough to come back every week for help, let alone to learn to read or write or add up better. We've discovered that things across the state are different. So some literacy coordinators are still building their service and they say, I can't find any clients, they're still not coming for help. Others are consolidating, they're doing a great job, and others are saying, could you stop raising awareness because we can't deal with any more people. That's tricky because we're all part of the same service. We work within an integrated service model in LINC Tasmania, and I loved the story this morning about, I've forgotten now, that the not understanding that what we're doing, we're already doing what we say we're doing, but we don't know about it. My message to LINCs and libraries is it's really simple. Either they need help or they can give help. But we still have lots of people in libraries who would rather check out a book. So we've got to make them see that everything they do is about adult and family literacy. There are some really tricky things going on. The more we raised awareness, the more people said, if half of adult Tasmanians can't read and write, what have our schools been doing? And I belong to the Department of Education, so that's really hard. How do you say, well, schools, there are multiple barriers to adult literacy. It's not just about school provision. So that's a really difficult message for those of us who work within government. We also have to face up to the fact that retention rates in Tasmanian schools are appalling. We have high schools that go to year 10 and then we have senior secondary colleges. Lots of our kids think that the leavers dinner at the end of year 10 is the thing to aim for. We're also trying to bring together disparate funders. So the state government fund adult literacy provision, but the Australian government fund it through Skills for Employment and Education, through things like Mission. We try to persuade TAFE to come on board. So it's very difficult when we all report and measure to different peak bodies. We also need some people to come out, as Ian Thorpe has done about being gay. I need some high profile people, probably a Hawthorn footballer would be good, to say, I've had problems with literacy. And we're also discovering that people are really happy to take grants from us, but they haven't yet figured out how to run sustainable adult literacy programs into the future when the grants run out.